Pacific cultivate high EQ resilience and cultures where people thrive. I'm absolutely thrilled that you've chosen to be here today. It's not an honor that we take lightly, but we're looking forward to a massive value added session with the amazing Andrew Davey. Today's more than just about picking up another framework. More importantly, is to stepping into the mindset of a coach, not just a manager. To help us get the very most out of this next hour, just a few quick agreements, if I may. Number one, be here now. I want to encourage each and every one of you to be fully present. Give yourself that gift. Cameras on. We invite that as much as possible, where we're modeling what great coaching presence looks like. Feel free to engage directly, everyone, if you don't mind. For starters, can you put into the chat box your name and where in this amazing universe you're from? That would be absolutely amazing. And continue to drop your insights and reflections into the chat. Unmute, and when invited, please do unmute and share your perspectives. And the more you give, I know that everyone will have even more, looking at us co-creating a wonderful experience for us in this very short hour. But let's get warmed up, my dear friends. Also in the chat, quite apart from sharing, number one, your name, whereabouts in this wonderful world you're from. Please type in 2 words for us. One for how you're arriving right now, what sort of energy, how you're feeling. And number 2, what you'd love to take away from today's session, right? So 1, for how you're arriving right now. And secondly, what you'd love to take away from this session that would make you say amazing. For instance, it could be curious and confidence, right? So go ahead and type those in. Wonderful. Sophia, Joseph, all the way from Sierra Leone, Peter, William Bay, amazing. Cool from VN, feeling the power, cool. Thanks for joining us. Cass from Victoria, welcome. Dr. Seema from Singapore, Mauritius, my dear Vivian, it's been too long. Anticipation, amazing. How? Sylvia from Singapore, Buntat, amazing. Talia, Raymond, man, it is absolutely amazing. This is great. So thank you. Love the energy that's already in the room. Thank you so much for bringing your wonderful presence. It's now with great pleasure for me to introduce one of the finest coaches and human beings I've had the privilege of journeying with, and one of our lead facilitators at EQ Strategist, the amazing Andrew Davey. Andrew, over to you, brother.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. I just want to say hello. I saw Sylvia there. I saw Hao Chongping, the amazing crew, a couple of people that we never get an opportunity to connect so often. And the fact I'm re-seeing you for, I don't know when the last time was. Thank you so much, everyone, for making time. And I mentioned those names, and I know there's a lot of people I haven't met. The intent is for today, obviously, to get to know this amazing circle of influence of leaders that we have at EQ Strategist. And I think that's the most important point I want to make at this point. Of course, you all came on here. Of course, maybe you'll take 1 or 2 things away, but most importantly, I know you're coming here because you're all coaches in your own right. You're all leaders in your own right. So as Dominic mentioned, something that is so powerful on calls like this is to share your insights and wisdom with everybody on this call. Yes, I've learned some things I'd love to share with you today, and I know collectively it's a shared experience we'll all have, and we've only got an hour, so I'll go as fast as I can to have as much fun as possible, and at the end of this, look forward to connecting you thereafter. So those joining and meeting me for the first time, so wonderful to meet you. For those I'm reconnecting with, thank you so much. Not going to share anything about this other than really one of the things I love to do in the world is seeing people be the greatest versions of themselves. And for me, one of the greatest gifts, I believe, in the world that we play in as leaders, in the way in which we can help people to see that and often light up a spark inside, is the power of coaching. And I think you all know that, which is why you're all here today. And I'm really excited to journey with you. And here's what to expect. In a moment, I'll get you to type in the chat box, read that question. Perhaps if you can answer A, B, C, or D, I would love to learn from you. What does coaching mean to you? Maybe you can even type your own answer if you've got something completely different. I'd love to hear from you. But really, I want to share why I believe coaching is your greatest leadership asset. And for a lot of people, really understanding what it actually is, and really bringing it to life through stories and things that we'll be doing throughout today, where it won't just be a talk fest, of me pressing buttons on a slide. It'll be an opportunity for you to share some insights. And we'll even have a role play where we'll be able to play out collectively and see what we would do in this specific situation. At the end of today, there's an opportunity to see if you want to come and have a chat with me personally, where I might be able to give you 1 or 2 tips on your personal journey as well. That's a complimentary offer we always give to all of you amazing people for you giving your most precious gift being your time. So let's get started on today. Chat box, really quickly. Let's just light that up. What have we got? We've got a few insights here. D, I tend to agree. You notice I put them all in there. Thank you so much for your insights. Del, wonderful to see you. Thank you so much. It seems like a unanimous decision on D. And really, what's it all about? It's all about people. That's the most important thing. I always share, I have one guiding force, a question, or should I say a statement that wakes me up every morning, and that is this: how do I be a good human? And my version of being a good human is sometimes maybe a smile as simple as, or it can be asking a question that helps someone see something they didn't see before and giving them that gift of actually, just like Kelly sharing, perhaps a perspective they didn't see before. And that's the gift we bring to everything that we do. So I want you just to think about this. You don't have to type this in the chat box. Let's keep this a little personal and make it real for you and valuable. I want you just to think of now, currently in your world, perhaps someone that's a colleague. It might be someone that's, in your team, or it might even be in your personal world. I want you to think of maybe a conversation that's been left in the unspoken world. That's often where our greatest gift as self-awareness coaches can be, is maybe recognizing some areas of perhaps discomfort, things we need to face, things we need to ask or share, and maybe just write that person's name down and think of perhaps the context of that conversation. Also think, what is the cost of not having that conversation? What do you think it might be? If you were to have that conversation, what might be the value or benefit from it? Because today, at the end of this call, what I'm going to prompt you to do is maybe go and have that conversation with the tools you specifically learn and watch the impact and difference it has in your world. That's another rule I have in life as a coach. Is one of the things is we all, as normal human beings, will say things sometimes we don't mean. Emotions high, intelligence is low, right? We might say something we later regret as human beings. And I take it upon myself to say, yes, this is something that happens to me too. And with self-awareness, I know that I'll revisit that conversation. It might not be in that moment if I'm still pissed off, but it might be a little later down the track where I know that this is something where there's something left unspoken, the elephant in the room, for those that know what I mean by that, where I want to have the courage to speak up and resolve it. And coaching is one of the greatest gifts, skills, tools that we can have in order to do that. Now, my friends, in order to do this, I want to start with the power of story. What's really cool is there's an amazing leader on this call, Mr. Hao Chong Peng. Often meet up for breakfast, we have a conversation, and we spoke specifically about this. And when we speak specifically about when you're bringing something to life in a teaching moment, one of the greatest ways is to look out into the world and find captivating stories that teach it for us. They say words will give the lesson, but a picture tells 1,000 words, right? So I want to share a little video that's a really humbling reminder for all of us as leaders as to the impact we have on others, especially when people aren't speaking up. That might be in our teams, or that might be in our worlds that are around us. So what I'm going to do now is, in the chat box in a moment, there'll be a link to a YouTube link. This link is because sometimes there's a bit of lag on Zoom. I apologize for technology in advance. There may be an issue with it. I'm going to play the video, but if you want to watch it on your own device, it only goes for about a minute, and I really want to use this as a message as to why coaching is such a powerful tool. Let's play the video.
Here comes the flight crew now. Commander Dick Scobie, followed by Mission Specialist for the U.S. Ron McNair. Pilot Mike Smith, followed by Krista McCullough, teacher in space, Ellison Onizuka, and payload specialist Greg Jarvis.
United 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Engines throttling up, 3 engines now at 104%.
Challenger, go and throttle up. By Trotto. Go ahead. RSO reports vehicle exploded.
Okay, everybody, stay off the telephones. Make sure you maintain all your data. Start pulling it together.
Today is a day for mourning and remembering. Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the Shuttle Challenger. We know we share this pain with all of the people of our country. This is truly a national loss. The Challenger 7 were aware of the dangers, overcame them, and did their jobs brilliantly. They had a hunger to explore the universe and discover its truths. They wished to serve, and they did. They served all of us. We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye.
Wow, Dave.
Now, it's a powerful message, especially for the engineers on the call. Of course, we can look at it for a matter of fact of what actually went wrong. Now, in actual fact, what went wrong was the temperatures. And some of you might even remember this. You might have been watching it. I was 6 years old at the time. But what actually went wrong was there was an O-ring that separated that had a fuel leak. And it happened because the launch happened at all costs, because we didn't want to blow budget. There were so many factors that forced the setting up and launching of this mission. And they launched this mission in temperatures where this had never been tested. And we can look at it, understand it from a logical sense to appreciate what went wrong was actually this O-ring and the temperatures and the testing and all the things. But if you actually break it down, there was a challenge in leadership happening at NASA in the time. People knew this was a problem. People were trying to voice this was a problem, and they were shut down. It was a culture where it was a succeed at all costs, push, 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 we need to move forward. There was never conversations about what are your thoughts on this? And when people dare to speak up, one of the things that happened, of course, they were shut down. And in this happened, this group conference call happened the night before this mission launched. Now, of course, we know logically all the things now with the beautiful gift of hindsight. And maybe you're not launching rockets into space in the work that you do, but everything has a cost. And conversations not had always have a cost, be it emotional, be it financial, be it something that might be unseen. And for me, I always hear this story and I just think of all the school children that were watching on as their teacher launched into space, knowing she'll never come back. The gravity of things going wrong when behind the scenes, when people work collectively, come together towards a common goal, where the cost and ultimate cost in this case was life. But for you, I want you to consider those unspoken conversations or bringing more out of people. What's the opportunity that comes from that? And what's the cost that we might be avoiding as a result of it? And if we look at any challenge in any leadership, often it's when people dare not speak up, when the chosen style, which we'll go into, of leadership is not one of coaching and bringing the best out of people. It's one more of directions, and here's what you need to do. So understanding this really is to know the value of coaching, understanding really what is the purpose of using the modality, the tools, the resources that we have within ourselves that can help people light up and bring the best out in each other. I gave my best definition. This is how I see and perceive based on, the question we asked at the start of this session. To me, it's always in my life where somebody has seen something in me that I didn't see before. I'll bring that to life in a story in a moment. If I look back on those moments when people took the time out to ask a question, but their intent was to serve. Their intent wasn't to get something out of the situation or the response. Now, don't take my word for it as to how valuable this is. There's so much research done on the power of coaching. There's a couple of examples that we've given. We look at Gallup's understanding and we look at the engagement levels in culture, and we look at what it also means for profitability, production, and productivity of your people. When people feel valued, appreciated because someone's taken the time to help them grow, we're moving away from, like Dominic and I like to say, motivation 1.0, the carrot and the whip. We've passed the industrial age. And it's got to a point now where what? Where if people aren't intrinsically motivated and they're not feeling appreciated, they'll just move to a place where they feel they might be. So it's our greatest gift as a leader to help people be the best versions of themselves, and it reciprocates back because people bring true meaning to what they do. Now, you probably know this, but I'll highlight some real key points. Here's what coaching isn't. It's one of the things where people sometimes go wrong, where they feel like they're coaching and bringing the best out of the individual. And the most important one is coaching's not mentoring. There's a caveat to this. Coaching and asking people questions sometimes might reach a point where there's a gap. And you reach a gap because the person's actually exhausted all responses. And it might be where mentoring takes place. You've trodden the path. You, as the amazing engineer, sales executive, whatever it is that you do, you've probably trodden that path before. The danger is people jump straight to that mentoring role and assume that this person doesn't have the ability or skill to maybe get them 2 or 3 or 4 steps down the way, mentoring taking them to the 5th and the 6th. So mentoring has a place. My go-to always is asking questions to see where the person's at, appreciate, to then understand, perhaps would it be okay if I share 1 or 2 things that might help you move on to step 5 and 6. It means mentoring is a great thing, but shouldn't be our first protocol. And coaching, most importantly, it's not therapy. Therapy is therapy. Therapy focuses on perhaps, all the problems of the past and the things where we need to move and heal from, where coaching tends to be more future focused, more opportunistic, intends to be a little more looking towards how do we move towards rather than moving away from. Meaning therapy has a place, I'm not downplaying that, but everything has a role. And sometimes coaches fall into the trap and the danger of diving into the past where maybe it's not the place they should or need to actually venture. That person might be best speaking to somebody who needs some deeper understanding. And coaching is not managing. Caveat, I'm not saying there aren't times where you need to manage a crisis. You can imagine what they were dealing with on the other side of the Challenger mission. Managing had to happen to bring everything together, to understand what went wrong. It's just to move beyond that culture of what was in NASA to what is today. Coaching and understanding is the best way to learn from some of the challenges that have happened. Managing, which tends to be a bit more about directing. Here's what we need to do. Let's move forward cohesively. Coaching is about enabling others to see it and helping them move towards whatever that common goal is. Now, why coaching is so important? This is one of the greatest things when you go researching, you go understanding. Like I said, it's not just me sharing stories and videos on YouTube and a bunch of slides. This stuff is backed up by science, proven, tested, understood, the value and the power of it. There's a couple of examples. If we look at one of the biggest ones I want to highlight is the insights that Deloitte took, where companies with effective coaching practices, and that's the key word, effective, they're 21% more likely to outperform competitors financially. Why do I believe that is? It's because of the culture being created where people are thinking about uplifting, growing, moving in a direction purposefully rather than following KPIs. Coaching increases internal accountability, intrinsic motivation. It makes people and allows people to see themselves and feel heard in all areas of maybe whatever they're working on or whatever opportunities they have to be part of the conversation. This is one of the most powerful things that we can do as a coach. It's helping people, regardless of authority, regardless of position or title, to feel like they have a seat at the table. And that does the very, very powerful thing to the motivation of a person within. Now, here's some examples. We all know this, of course, as leaders, but the 6 leadership styles. Know that everything has a place. Meaning sometimes coaching in the middle of a building that's on fire probably might not be the most ideal way to lead people out of the building. We might need a great coercive leader or authoritative leader to move and get out of the building in an emergency. Yet the challenge is if we're constantly living in a state of emergency where a person is keeping people at a heightened state of fear and worry and anxiety, imagine what that does to the collective culture of an organization. Whereas if we think about from a coaching perspective, how do we develop our people for the future? One of the greatest gifts as leaders, I hear people share with me, they think back of the legacy of their careers, and they think of moments in time where they've had conversations with people where they know that the organization this person's in is limiting that person's growth. And the opportunity for that person to grow within the current organization might be capped, or they've hit the glass ceiling. And their coaching, their guiding, and their questioning leads the person out of the organization, where 10 years later, this person comes to them and says, thank you so much for seeing something for me and in me that I didn't see for myself. Coaching, I come back to, and one of the most important parts that I want to highlight is it's our intent as to why we're choosing to coach people in the first place. So there's some examples of this. This is the examples of what people might say, but we're honing in on coaching in understanding how do we help people see and perceive the possibility and the opportunity that's always generally looking towards the future, or the positive, optimistic future. So this is the other elements. If you understand what it does to the organization when we look at an adopted style of leadership, generally speaking, if you look at coaching, it tends to have a more consistent positive impact across the board. Variations, of course, on industry, what industry are currently facing in the way of challenges and headwinds. But ultimately, if people and organizations are looking to grow, when we're moving beyond spot fires and all the things that need to be put out, when we're moving and mobilizing towards a common goal, coaching is, in my opinion, the answer in how we do it. Now, what I'm going to do now is bring it to life with some keys you can take away that are really going to make a difference. When I say that, I mean that all of you are leaders on this call, and you probably know some of this, but I want you just to think about, if there's something I share, what does it mean perhaps for that unspoken conversation at the start of this call? What does it mean for something you're currently facing in these teams, and how can I apply it most importantly? So coaching, most importantly, without rapport, is simply a conversation. It's nothing more. And I say that very deliberately and intentionally. You cannot help a person who doesn't want to be helped. And most importantly, people are more open to questions, more receptive to your guidance, your questions, your thoughts, your insights, when this thing called rapport exists. And the other thing that's the contrast to that is any form of resistance, anything that's left unspoken. When you know in a conversation with a person, I'm feeling a disconnect, just know this: any form of resistance that you're feeling is an absence of rapport. And most importantly, what do we do about that? Focus on the most important thing we can do as a coach: build rapport with people. Be people-oriented. Be people-focused. The example, as you probably all know, is the emotional bank account. For those that don't, I'll go over it very quickly. It's being conscious that in every relationship exists this unspoken emotional bank account, meaning I'm either making deposits in the emotional bank accounts of others, or I'm making withdrawals. Now, how do I do that? There's some examples there, but most importantly, if we are truly there for a person and it's about them and we want to see them grow, and there's no invisible string attached that's get, and it's all about give, support, uplift, grow, nurture that person, what we're doing is constantly making deposits in the emotional bank account of others. Some other examples, of course: do as you say as you do, keeping promises. Those kind of things go a great way to making deposits, which means one day, normal human being just like myself, you might say or do the wrong thing in the heated moment. You lose your stuff, right? And when you say it, if you've made so many deposits in the emotional bank account of that person, guess what? You take one withdrawal, what are they more likely to do? Geez, Andrew must be having a bad day. More willing to give the benefit of the doubt. And it's the one key as a coach that I always like to look at in every situation that might be uncomfortable, is always giving the benefit of the doubt. I never know what's happening in someone else's world, assuming positive intent, to appreciate that sometimes people are just doing their best. And maybe that's an opportunity for me to ask a better question. Hey, is everything okay? That allows me an opportunity to enter a person's world when this beautiful gift called rapport exists. What am I really talking about? If you want to move to a place of agreement, this RESA model of influence brings this to life. It is nothing without rapport. Our ability to enter someone's world when a relationship exists is what allows us to ask questions. At the end of this webinar, when you hop off this call, you'll receive a gift which both Dominic and I really thought about specific situations. And there's a cheat sheet for questions that might prompt even more engaging conversations. Now, that tool that you have is great, but it's worth 0% if rapport doesn't exist with the person that you're asking the questions of. It means what? Coaching is all about relationships. It's about connecting with humans at a deeper level that's beyond the tip of the iceberg and focusing on everything you can do when you walk away from this call to increase the rapport that we have with all of the people in our world. Then moving to a place where we can empathize, understand before we can share our ideas and move to how we can move forward. So most importantly, number one is understanding rapport is the key thing that we need to have as a coach. Now, the second one's a story I want to bring to life because it's really one of the first most memorable coaches in my world. Peter Hill might recognize this guy. He's from Western Australia. And I share because he brings this story to life very personally for me because I was a 16-year-old boy with a very different haircut when I first met this man. Now, great coaches have a desire to coach and build relationships, meaning what? Their intent is actually to serve, nothing more, not to get results, not to hit their KPIs, not I'm going to use this style of leadership because it's going to make a difference to my ex. It's going to make a difference to the other person. Our focus foremost is always on our intent to serve. So I've left some things, insights that I've shared on the side there, and I'd love to share a story with you all if it's really just a quick story to bring this to life. Now, Peter, really quick question. Do you recognize this man? Have you seen him before on the ads in Western Australia in Perth? Peter Hill.
Absolutely, yes, I have.
Excellent. Do you want to tell the crowd, who is this amazing man?
Well, it's Jeff Moritz from the Gas and Air Conditioning Man.
Amazing. Famous in Perth. If you live outside of Perth, you've probably never heard of the guy, but he's an amazing business leader in Perth, Western Australia. When I was 16 years old, I was away with a group of friends. We're on holiday, and we were all sitting around in this spa bath at a place called Silver Sands Resort in Mandurah over in Perth, Western Australia. The day before, I saw this guy, but I didn't know who he was. And everyone should know who he was if you're in Perth at that time in the 90s, because he was very flamboyant on the commercials where he used to have this bald head and zinc across his nose, and he was selling air conditioning for your home. Now, all these years later, the business is still going strong. And I remember him because the day before I saw this big, beautiful Land Cruiser and this huge boat on the back of the trailer. And as a 16-year-old kid, not coming from a place of affluence as wealth, I thought, that's a pretty cool life, right? This guy's putting his boat, and I saw him go out with his family. And then I find myself sitting in the spa bath with this amazing man. This guy, 5 other friends, and myself. And this guy started asking us questions. Whereabouts are you from, guys? He just started asking curious questions. And he said, I want to ask you, what do you think you're going to be doing 10 years from now? How much do you think you're going to be earning 10 years from now? You know, as a 16-year-old kid, at the time I was an apprentice mechanic making about $167.70 a week. These weren't things that I generally thought of, and you rarely do as a 16-year-old boy. And he started asking questions, and I remember he said, can I make a suggestion to all of you that would change your life? Am I open to advice from a guy that's got this big, beautiful flash 4-wheel drive and a boat? Of course I'm going to listen. He said, go do yourself a favor, read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, in that spa bath, 5 other guys there, good friends even to this day. One person read that book, yours truly, changed my life forever. I've never spoken to him since. In fact, I wrote him a letter, but here's the thing. What did Jeff want to get out of that conversation? Nothing. Was he looking to sell me an aircon unit? Maybe. Do some good rapport. Maybe I'll go home and tell my parents, Jeff Moritz, good guy. But what he did was he served, and there was no intent other than there's some impressionable young boys, and I have some knowledge and wisdom, and I want to share with them. But he never did it from a place of, look at my shiny boat and car, here's what you need to do. He did it from a place of questioning. And his intent was, when I walked away and think about that conversation, only one thing. This was a guy that was giving back, and he was giving back using the tool and the power of coaching to do it. And I honestly say, hand on heart, if it wasn't for Jeff Moritz and sending me in that pathway, I would not be standing on this call here having this conversation with you all today. That's the power you all have in serving with an intent only to serve. And coaching is one of the greatest gifts you can do for people by asking questions. Now, I want to share one other thing at the bottom. Did Jeff Moritz take a risk in having that conversation, do you think? Yes or no? Type in the chat box. Did he take a risk? Type in the chat box. Yes or no? Did he take a risk in asking a bunch of young teenage boys that question? I think it's a unanimous decision. Absolutely, he took a risk, which means what? It takes courage to coach, my friends. But when there's an intent to serve and to serve only, we move beyond fear because it's about the other person. We could have, for whatever reason, said what we did or said things that maybe were derogatory, demeaning. That could have happened. And I want you to get this. Of those 6 people that were sitting there, one of us was coachable. Most importantly, 5 others never read that book, never, probably even to this day, from knowing those friends. One person was open to it. Yet he didn't do it thinking, I'm going to make sure I change the life of these 6 kids. He gave without expecting. He asked those questions. It took courage to do that. And the result is a legacy left in somebody else, yours truly. And that's the power you all have, is thinking about, I don't know what this conversation is, but if I help this person, who knows what it means for their future? And just like Jeff Moritz, you might get a letter 10 or 20 years from now that says, thank you, you changed my life. That's one of the most important things I want to get, is your intent to coach, being pure and coming from a place that's purely about serving others. Now, coaching is reframing. This is one of the greatest skills as a coach that you can have. When people are stuck, and I always say this, there's only 2 people in the world that are actually stuck. Do you know who those are? I'm curious. Does anybody know who the 2 people in the world that are actually stuck are? Okay, I'll share really quickly. There's 2 people that are currently stuck in the world, only these 2 people. These 2 people were part of a team that was building the Hoover Dam in Las Vegas. Now, I don't know if you know about the Hoover Dam in Las Vegas, but what happened is it was one continuous pour of cement. And what it meant was, back then in the 50s, I believe, this one continuous pour of cement meant they couldn't stop. Because if that stopped, it was a weakness in the join, which meant they would have to start the whole process again. If you've ever seen the Hoover Dam, you'll see this absolutely magnificent structure that was poured in one pouring. And during that time, 2 people sadly fell to their death in the creation and construction of the Hoover Dam. Now, where are they now? They're still stuck in that cement because it was one continuous pour. The problem is, for a lot of people, they have an excuse as to why they're stuck. They have an excuse, a reason why they can't move forward. I can't do it because. And coaching in asking questions helps them see something that they perhaps didn't see before. If you look at a person that you're working with, they're like, yeah, it can't be done. I'm just curious, asking questions like that. I'm just curious. What are the other ways you've tried up until now that haven't succeeded? And what we're doing is we're not telling them that what they're doing is wrong. We're not telling them that they're stuck. We're helping them see outside the cement. We're helping them see outside the limitations of their own barriers by actually getting them to go within and consider it first. Coaching is about asking questions to help them see something that they generally didn't see before. If someone feels stuck, generally it's because they feel like they've exhausted all options. Coaching is asking questions to help them to get to see different perspectives. And if they arrive at a point where they can't, It might be saying and asking, would it be okay if I maybe make another suggestion that's worked for me in the past? And giving them another idea that they can run with. But first and foremost, helping them see the problem from different vantage points. There is always more than one way to see something, but when emotion's high, it's very difficult to see outside the stuckness or the inability to see a possibility or a way forward. What I'm really saying is reframing gives hope that there might be a solution, and coaching is the answer to bring that out for them. Most importantly, focus on them. Focus on, I want to help this person see something they didn't see before, and doing what you can to ask great questions in order to make sure that's happening. Now, reframing and pre-framing, there's two different things here. I want to share one other thing just on this key point. One of the great things you can do when it comes to pre-framing is starting the conversation by first addressing the unspoken. So if we look at helping them see a different perspective, often that first is giving a voice to something that maybe we all know already exists in the room. Let me give you an example of that. Imagine you go into a meeting and you know there's this thing that we all need to speak about, but nobody wants to address it. And what happens if you have the courage, just like Jeff Moritz, to bring it to the table? What it does is it clears the air. And it's the first thing you need to do before you even start that conversation. Being what? Imagine you're having a coaching conversation with a person where maybe there's some unspoken thing. And before you have that conversation, here's what you share with them. Now, before we begin, I just want to say I'm so sorry for what happened the other day. You know, it's been playing on my mind. When I interrupted you the other day during that meeting, I can only imagine that you would have felt disrespected. So I just want to say I'm so sorry for that. And I hope we can move forward beyond, and I'll certainly do my best to make sure it doesn't happen again. What we're doing is, I know that the other day I spoke over that person. I know there's something unspoken there. But coaching is addressing that, knowing the elephant is sitting at the table. If I don't clear that, that's going to be something lingering in the conversation that's going to limit our ability to connect deeper with that person. So understanding what is left unspoken, just like the start of this call, is one of the most important things we can do. And most importantly, giving a voice to it, addressing it. Great coaches take responsibility. They have great self-awareness to be aware of what might be affecting the relationship, and they have the courage to speak up and share it. So when it comes to pre-framing, going into every meeting where you know there might be some resistance, be that you're in a leader position, you're about to run a meeting, and you know that there's this thing that's happened in the week leading up to, the first thing you need to do is bring it out. And pre-framing is saying, I know that this has happened during the week, and I just want to share with all of you that I'm so proud of the way you all dealt with it. Now, I know we've got a long way to go to solve that problem, but I just want to acknowledge all of you for where we're currently at today. What we're doing is we're addressing it. We're giving a voice to it, allowing people also to have the courage to speak up and give it a voice also. So coaching is pre-framing and coaching is reframing. See an alternate view and also being aware of the views and the alternate views that other people have. If we can voice that out and bring it to the table to clear the air, then and only then can we ask questions that might help them see the different perspective. Most importantly, it's not about denying the current reality the person sees. Sometimes people feel really stuck in their point of view. And what it is empathizing with that and then finding opportunities to ask questions. And one of the most important questions that you can ask as a coach is getting them to exhaust out and share everything that's actually going on for them. Meaning, tell me more. Is everything okay? And then what happened? I'm curious. Tell me more. I want to learn. What you're doing is you're seeking first to understand. And maybe from then, the rapport that you're building with that person allows an opportunity for you to ask a better question to see a different perspective. One of the greatest tools that I understood, which takes courage to do, is actually asking permission to ask a question. It's one of the most greatest gifts that I've ever learned. And most importantly, the shift I see in others when I do it is huge. Why? Because the person feels appreciated. Now, what does that look like? Imagine this person shared a bunch of things about whatever happened, a challenging situation at work. And you've listened, you seek to understand, and you know in your mind that perhaps there could be an alternate view. And then instead of saying, could it be possible that this happened? What I'm suggesting is ask this question first. Would it be okay if maybe I share another possibility that could also be something happening in that situation? Now, here's the thing. When you ask permission, here's what people do. They let their guard down. People don't feel like they're being told. If we can do that, what it allows us to do is enter their world in a softer way to give a perspective where they're more likely or more open to hear what we have to say. Asking permission and then asking your question is one of the most powerful tools that you can have as a coach. And the final piece I want to share is this. As a coach, one of the greatest things you can do is tell and sell through the power of stories. Hao Chong Peng, you'll love this one. Most importantly, it's always really, truly appreciating that people just need to see hope and possibility. And often what happens is the power of story helps them relate to who? When you're sitting watching a movie, are you losing yourself in the story and seeing yourself in the relatable characters? We see ourselves in the picture. We see ourselves in the meaning. When people share stories with us, what are we tending to do? We're drifting off thinking about how does this relate to me? As human beings, we tend to be a little selfish by nature, and that's amazing because we're using that to our advantage in selling whatever the idea, thought, or it is in order to use a story to bring a person to see a possibility. We've asked questions, we've helped them gain understanding, see a different vantage point. We've pre-framed what's happening in the conversation. We've reframed a different perspective, and then perhaps saying, would it be okay if I share a quick story that will bring all of this to life or help you see a possibility? Now, I use the example of my wonderful son, Hudson, here, and I want you to look very closely at this picture. Little Hudson, you see, 3 years of age, every time he sits on his car seat, do you notice the straps on the top are missing? Why? Because he hates wearing them. He restricted and he would cry, and it would be a mission every time we go to get him into his car seat. And one day his mum was traveling in a Grab taxi, and that's the result of the taxi ride. She was sitting in, and the next minute at an intersection, parked just on Holland Road, not far from 6th Avenue actually, bang, a Lexus came, hit straight into the back. And all of her stuff fell out of a bag, fortunately, seatbelt on, and all of her stuff fell. She had the wisdom to take pictures to share with me, just been in an accident. I check on her, is everything okay, right? Little Hudson then, what I did is I shared the story. I said, Hudson, look, Mama's okay, but guess what? The Lexus hit into the back. There was an accident, but Mama's okay, luckily, because she had her seatbelt on, so everything's okay. And I kid you not, the very next day, this kid asked to put his seatbelt on. This is the same kid now that actually asks all of us and does a check-in. Papa, you got your seatbelt on? Mama, you got your seatbelt on? He's checking, and he's checking why? Because he sees why it's important. Now, you might think this is a 3-year-old. I want you to get the work we do in corporate world. Often it feels very, very similar. And often stories, when people see a reframed possibility, they see hope. What they need to be sold on is a future tomorrow of what success actually looks like. And knowing people have done it before through the power of story is one of the most powerful things that you can do for your people. So really quickly, now I've got about 5 minutes to bring this home. What I'd love for you to do is this. I've taught you really quickly some key skills, a lot of which I know you already know, and a lot of which I just bring to the forefront of your mind. What I want you to do really quickly is let me know, here's an example, real situation. What would you do during this moment? I want you to imagine you're this incredible leader, this manager. It's performance review time. And one of your KPIs as a manager is to do this performance review. Now, all your team knows this. Hey, this person is just doing it because it's part of their job, right? but you are a leader with an intent to serve. You really want the best for these people and you want to help them, but it seems like maybe they don't want to help themselves. What do you do in this situation? Anybody want to have a go at this? You want to unmute in an act of courage as the amazing coach you are? Put up your hand. I would love to hear what you would do. No right or wrong, because each coach as an individual will take a different approach. But would anyone love to share? What would you do in this situation? Anyone at all? Amazing leaders. Go ahead and unmute. I want to hear and learn from all of you. Anyone want to have a go at this? Amazing leaders. What about if I choose at random? Hey, Kun, I just saw you unmute. Amazing.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Yeah, I actually went through this scenario before in my team member, right? Yeah, actually, coming will be our this mid-year review as well. So in my team, actually, yeah. So I keep abreast on this, and I face the same scenario as well in my team members. So how actually I address the situation is that I will create a scenario that, because they said I don't want to step up for the management role, and some sorts like I scared for the handling more peoples, and I will address them as in there will be a great challenge and a lot of things that you can learn differently. So that's what ways I encourage to them, those members that have the negative and they want to step up. So I would say this will be a great opportunity for you guys, and take it as an opportunity and learn. And I always will be your guidance to guide them. Yeah, in my team members. Yeah.
Amazing job, everyone.
Right.
Incredible. Now, if I'm hearing correctly, Aikun, what I'm hearing is you're reframing their perspective of how they're seeing. Would that be correct?
Yes, you're right.
Great job. Amazing, Aikun. Thank you so much. I think Cass put a hand up as well. Cass, did you want to have a go? Love to hear.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Cass.
Hi. I've just been through my 6 monthly review. I'm in a new position at my office, and I've just been through my 6 monthly review with my manager. And one of the things that I found most notable was she actually included herself in the review. So it wasn't a review to make me feel like I was being judged or I guess sort of questioned or called out. She sort of sat me down. She asked me questions how I was going, and she expected feedback from me about how I felt the company was, how I felt my role was, what she could do better to guide me and lead me as a manager. And it just made me feel like I was involved and more part of the team, and she actually listened and heard and understood where I was coming from as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Cass, thank you for sharing that. You know, it warms my heart to know there's leaders just like on this call out there in the world that are having conversations like this. That sounds like you're in an amazing role with an incredible leader. Congrats on the 6 months too. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, to both of the points of the amazing people that just spoke up, thank you for doing that. I know it takes courage to do it. Here would be my suggestions, which is what happened in both of these conversations. Always start with a pre-frame, meaning what's the elephant in the room here? They know it's part of my KPI, so what would I be doing? Now, before we begin, I just want you to be aware, I know that this is part of my KPIs, but I also want you to know that's not why I do this. Here's why. For me, one of the greatest things for me is to see my team members grow into their amazing roles and perhaps one day leave my team and go and make something incredible with their career. That's what I want to get out of this, right? So it's starting with a pre-frame and then perhaps even asking the client, you know, being in this case, one of your team. So I'm curious, what would make this next hour we spend together helpful for you? What will you want to walk away with? Would it be ideas, suggestions of how I can help and support you? What is it that you want to get out of this conversation that we have? When I ask a question like that, starting with the pre-frame, what am I doing? I'm actually reframing the conversation. They've gone in thinking, this person's just doing their job, tick box. What are they now thinking? This person actually gives a shit and they actually care about my career development and growth. And then what will we do beyond that? is perhaps, if it were me, I'd be sharing a story of a past person in my team that was just like them. I remember I had a person that just in their first 6 months. And what was so amazing is I saw them grow, and this happened. And eventually, after 2 years, I found an opportunity for them to help build their skills and grow. And they actually moved beyond my team. They're now the managing director of this organization over here. And I'm so proud of them for that reason. You're sharing a story of success as to what this one-on-one really meant for a person who's now moved beyond to a future opportunity. You're sharing past stories of success. And then perhaps getting alignment on the future outcome. And what do you need to do to get there? So if this is what you're looking to do, you want to move to senior or SVP or VP, what is it going to take to get there currently, do you believe? And most importantly, which is what Cass was just sharing, what can I do to help you to get there? Is this conversation about me meeting my KPI? Of course not. But did I tick the box? Yes, done. Except I'm not doing it to tick the box. I'm doing it because I care and I want to make a difference in this person's world. So I share that to bring it to life because I know on this call, there's people that are having these conversations right now, and they're probably not so dissimilar in the way in which things are happening in your world. So I sincerely hope that makes it helpful. I'm just conscious of time as we move forward. I want to bring it all together really quickly. And that's this. Most importantly now, take your pen, device, whatever it is you're using, and I want you to write down what's one commitment that you will make as of today that you thought about and you're thinking of, be that conversation that needs to be had at the start of this call. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have. Maybe it's better preparing for the next performance review. Whatever it is, I want you just to write down what's the one commitment that you will make. It might be a relationship that you want to go and make some deposits in the emotional bank account. It might be to collect stories, and that's one of the most important things in the suggestion. In the suggestions of today, here's the most important thing for you as a coach. Focus on relationships. Make yourself visible. Don't be the quiet leader. And you might hear introvert, extrovert to me, human beings. And making yourself available, visible for others with the intent to serve is one of the most powerful things you can do as a leader. And the other thing too, how, to your testament and through the conversation we had at breakfast that day, it's how do we switch on, just like hearing the Challenger crisis and thinking that could be a great way to share a lesson with people. What happens is, just like with Hudson's story, coaches just turn on the switch and all of a sudden you're watching a movie, but you're not watching a movie and losing yourself in it. You're watching the movie to see what powerful lessons you can take to share with others. You're watching life experiences through a different lens that can be used and utilized to help others see true potential in themselves. Something happens when you have an intent to serve as a coach. You switch on, the flick on the light, and all of a sudden everything becomes a possibility to make an impact in the lives of others. So my friends, let's be quiet at my end and let's open up maybe conversation, questions, anything at all. Anything anyone would love to add? I know it's very fast. We've got 1 hour. I'm trying to get as much done as I can. Is there anything you want to ask, anything you want to share, or any insights that perhaps maybe you know of as a coach that could be helpful for everyone on this call? Love to hear from you. Please go ahead and unmute. We'll just spend a couple of minutes on this. Make sure we answer. And maybe if you prefer, you can type in the chat box. I'll try and keep an eye on that at the same time as well. Any questions?
Hi, Andrew. I got a question. Kieran here.
Kieran, hello there. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, so my question was that in these appraisals, right? I mean, I think another person also said the same thing, is that don't you try to build that rapport before you head out to that management meeting or that the KPI meeting? Because if you didn't build that rapport, so that's probably why the person's already thinking that you've got to do this as a tick box. But if you've had regular conversations with the team, right, or with individuals, then they sort of know that, look, this is something that we do in a regular basis. And so, yeah, this is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kieran, you're absolutely right. I really appreciate you highlighting that. And of course, if you look at, and just a reminder for everyone as well, just as Kieran said, one of the most important things is what? focus on relationships, being relationship oriented. In actual fact, to your point, Kieran, if that were the case, work was done on building rapport with all your amazing connections, there will be no resistance in that performance review. My suggestion is some people might be starting from now. And sometimes if we're starting from now, the performance review might be the ultimate way to start to build rapport and make that deposit. So Kieran, thanks for bringing that to life. It's such a true point. Without rapport, it's just a conversation. One of the most important things. Awesome. Thank you, Kieran. Amazing. Anybody else? Any questions? Very conscious of time, everyone. Vivian's on the road. It looks beautiful where you are, by the way. Sunshine.
Hi, sorry.
Don't apologize. I don't want to interrupt while you're driving. I was just noticing the beautiful blue sky in the background. That's all.
Yeah, Mauritius is going into summer, and it's my early morning, so it's 6:30 in the morning. So that's why I didn't participate too much, because I've got a whole household sleeping.
It looks absolutely magnificent. Thank you for being here, and I can see you've got a crowd in the background. We've got more than one people join the call. Very cool. Now, conscious of time, any other questions at all? If you can type in the chat box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to the amazing Dominic Siao to bring this home. Dominic, I do apologize, of course, with the amazing sharings and things. We went a little bit over there, but I'll pass on to you thereafter. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Everybody, I trust that you got a lot of value from the amazing Andy. You know, as always, the 1 hour session is all about value add, and we always seek to create as much value within the hour as we can, and certainly we wish we could give you so much more. I just want to standing offer to each and every one of you, knowing that some of you have even more questions. Can you please take advantage of these? Those of you who would value a one-on-one call with Andy, please feel free to sign up on this. We're offering a complimentary one-on-one strategy call with Andy so that you can experience some coaching for yourself and to address any questions that you may have. Yeah, but I think importantly, the best coaches are the best students themselves, and students are not just about learning stuff, but applying stuff, right? Unless you apply what you've learned, nothing changes. So I want to encourage you to follow through on your commitments. And if you don't mind, maybe pop into the chat box. What's one thing that today has inspired you to do differently as a way of closing off on this? And finally, Andy, if you don't mind, just pop on to the next slide. For those of you who have valued this conversation today, we look to create even more value-added content like this to help us touch even more lives with our work. If you feel it's deserving, very glad if you could just spend just a minute popping us a review. If you're in Australia, the QR code on the left-hand side. If you're outside of Australia, the QR code on the right-hand side. Only if you feel it's deserving. And like me, feel like you've gotten a tremendous amount of value from the amazing Andy. A lot of whys, a lot of wonderful tools. I love that 3-stage framework. And also, I hope you're inspired to be of your very best. I want to thank each and every one of you as well for chipping in and co-creating this wonderful experience. There's been a great amount of wonderful chats and giving in the program. But other than that, feel free to reach out, connect with us. We'd love to learn even more from you. You will receive an email very shortly when the team has produced this recording, and for those of you, we'll give you a limited access should you wish to revisit this again. Feel free to do that. And that coaching playbook cheat sheet, wonderful list of questions that Andy has collated over many years of his wonderful coaching, it will be sent out to you within the next 24 hours. Yeah. Thank you so much for the honor of allowing us to spend an hour with you. It's just 1 minute from 1:30 p.m. We truly honor you. That's in Sydney, 11:30 in Singapore, and wherever you are in this wonderful world. On behalf of Team EQ Strategist, the amazing Andy, and the team, thank you so much, everybody. Everybody, can you join us in giving Andy an amazing...
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.